So I was in the Musical Bargain Centre one day, and a guy came in, and Dave Sims used to run it. And Dave said, "Oh, hello, Chaz, how are you?" And Chaz said, "Oh, got a big problem." And that was Chaz Cronk, who ended up with the Strawbs and all that. And he said, there's a session at Olympic Studios. He said, next week, he said, for a guy called Jimmy Thomas. And Jimmy Thomas was the male singer of the Ike and Tina Turner band. Great singer, a lovely guy. A lot of people think that Ike sang, but Ike didn't sing. He just played a guitar. Yeah. And Jimmy Thomas was there. He's coming over with his band to record for Denny Cordell at Olympic Studios. And he said, Dave said, "What's the problem?" He said, "Well, some of the band have been held at Heathrow Airport for having some sort of powdery stuff that they shouldn't have, and they've all been arrested and they're being sent." And he said, "So it's a nightmare." He said, "So I just happened to be around at Regal's on a phone up in London, and then he said, we need 3 brass players, and we need a Hammond organist, and we need somebody to do the arrangements for the brass and all that, and we've only got a week to do it." And Dave Sims said, "Chaz, Rick will do it." And he went, "Oh, hello." He said, "You haven't met Rick, that's Chaz." And shook his, and he said, "Can you? That's brilliant. Hold on a minute. I've got a 1/4-inch tape in the car. I'll go and get it." So he went out and he came back in with this real 7-inch reel, and he said, "Right." He said, "We need it's three brass. We need a trombone, trumpet, and tenor sax to do that arrangement, and you can do the organ. That's absolutely brilliant. It's Olympic Studios. It's Friday week." I went, "Yeah, okay." And off Chaz went, and I said, "Dave, what have you just done?" He said, "You can do it. You're capable of doing it." I said, I'm 17. I'm still at school, and you can." He said, "I know you can do a great job." So I said, "Well, the next problem is I don't have a tape recorder."
So you can't even listen to this.
Yeah, how the hell can I listen to it? I don't have a tape recorder. I was living at home, Mum and Dad. So I went home, and my Dad was home from work, and he said, "How's your day?" And I said, "I've got a problem, Dad, and I don't know what to do." He said, "What's that?" And I said, "Well, I've got this tape I'm going to listen to. I don't have a tape recorder." And he said, "What's it for?" And I told him, and he said, "How much is it?" I said, "It's going to cost me about 30 quid, £30, which is a lot of money. That was twice his wages for the week." And Dad said, "Right, let's get you sorted." He said, "You can pay me back at a later." So I got a Grundig tape recorder, and I put the tape on, and I had little speakers and a lamp, and it just didn't sound right. And then it occurred to me that the Grundig tape recorder, its top speed was 7.5.
Oh,
so
and this was 15.
This was 15. So head in hand, so Dad said, "We'll go back to the shop." So I went back to the shop, upgraded to one that played at 15.
Wow.
Came back. I played it. I wrote all the parts. I didn't have much time to do it. I wrote the parts. This is absolutely true. Now, what you normally do, so I learned later, is you, in the days then, before Sibelius or whatever, you wrote out the main score, you wrote it in concert pitch, you threw it to a copyist who would then copy it with the necessary key changes. I didn't have time to do this. I had one great friend who was a trumpet, because I hadn't done any major sessions, who was a trumpet player called Kenny Baker, who was a very famous trumpet player, and I'd met him playing with a dance band at a ballroom out in Berkshire, and I'd called him up and he said, "I'll sort your players out for you, Rick. Don't worry." I said, "Thank you very much." Well, I got a friend of mine to help copy the parts out quick because we didn't have much time to do it.
I'd like to take a second to talk to you about this channel. This is actually Rick Beato 2. I've had it since the beginning of my main channel, and many of you are not subscribed. As a matter of fact, 87% of the people that watch this channel regularly are not subscribed. So I encourage you to hit the subscribe button on this channel and on my main channel. This will help me get even more of my dream guests and help continue to grow both channels. Thank you.
So I get to the studio, to Olympic Studios. I'd never been in it. It's a wonderful studio. Rolling Stones owned it at one stage. It was absolutely brilliant. And so I went in there, met Denny Cordell, who was later the producer, found Joe Cocker and other people like that. Mm-hmm. Also in the control room were Tony Visconti and Gus Dudgeon, who were there. And then there was Jimmy was there, a lovely guy. And then there was the band. I was the only white guy there, which was fine. Didn't worry me one iota. It was great. But the guys, they were all sort of what I call marqués players, you know, the great stack stuff, which was a great love of mine. I mean, on my jukebox to this day, it's 30% Stax records and things. Love all of that. So I'm in there, but I don't play like that. So the deal was, the first session was to get the backtracks down. There was a track called The Running Kind, which never got released in the end, which is a great shame because it was a great track. It was The Running Kind and then another track as well. And then the second session, it was the brass section, which I was MDing. So I'm sitting at the Hammond organ there and the guys play this. Now, I played the only way I know how, which is sort of I suppose what was considered then a very sort of classical. So we did a couple of takes through and the none of the other music, they just played their bits into whatever. It was a fun track. And then Denny Cordell said, "Organist, what's your name?" And I said, "Rick." He said, "Can you come in the control room?" And I thought, oh, fuck. And I went in there and he said, "Right." He said, "Where did you learn to play like that?" And I said, "I know you probably want a Booker T type thing. I can do it, but it's not really what I do. I'm sorry, but I can do it if you want that kind of thing." He said, "No, no, no." And he said, "You've got a very unique way of playing." He said, and I said, "Well, do you want me to change it?" He said, "No, no, no." He said, "Word of advice." He said, "You're going to do a lot of sessions for a lot of people. You play like you. Don't play like, you know, Booker T or anybody else. Play like you." He said, "And I bet you within a couple of years, people were going to other keyboard players go, play like this guy, Rick. What's your second name?" I said, "Wakeman." He said, "Play like Rick Wakeman." I went, "All right." He says, "You carry on doing what you're doing." He said, "You did the brass arrangements as well, didn't you?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "I'm looking forward to that." He said, "Why haven't I seen you around the studios very much?" And I thought, I can't tell him that I haven't. And I said, "Well, I've been away," which was true. I'd just been on holiday with me mum and dad. And I said, I've been abroad on holiday. And I didn't say on holiday. I said, "I've been abroad." He went, "Oh, right, okay. Well, tomorrow," he said, I'd like to see. Can you come up to the offices, which is 68 Oxford Street, Dumbarton House?" He said, "and come up and have a chat with me and Gus and Tony about some future stuff." He said, "Can you be up there at 9 o'clock in the morning?" And without thinking, I just went, "That'd be a bit tricky. I've got a geography exam." And they all looked up. I could see it to this day, them looking up, and they went, "Are you at school?" And I thought, I've just blown it. Well, I went, "Yeah, I'm doing," and then I'm off to the Royal College of Music. And I can remember to this day, Denny leaning back, he went, "Okay." He said, "You got a geography exam?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Is that going to be your career?" I went, "No, I want to be a musician." He said, "Well, at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning in my office, I'll know how much you want to be a musician."
Wow.
I was outside his office at 7:30 in the morning and waited and went in, and that was it. But the brass section thing was hilarious because Kenny Baker arrived with the other two guys. I handed the music over. We started playing, and it was awful. And Danny goes, "What the hell is this?" So I went in and I was conducting him, and Kenny Baker said, he moved away from the mics, came over to me, he said, "Who copied these for you?" I said, "Well, just a mate at college, at the school college." He went, "None of it's been transposed."
Oh, man.
And I went, "Oh, shit." He said, "Don't worry." So he went back to the guy, he said, "Transpose." Just whisper like that. And then they played and transposed it as they went along.
Yeah.
Absolutely brilliant. And it was a great soundtrack. And Danny went, well, that was fantastic. What was it the first time?" I said, "Oh, my fault. I handed them out old parts and things." Some bullshit. And that was it.